And so you grew up in Tennessee, and I'd be remiss without the obvious. I mean, you're in a very musical family. Not just your dad is the incomparable Buddy Cannon, but your sister is by far one of the best harmonizing vocalists that Nashville has ever seen,
Yes, she is.
in my humble opinion. And I'm hoping to have her on the show at some point too. I'm going to reach out
She
because
talks more than me.
I think her story is fabulous as well. So yeah, I'm hoping to have her on as well. But so you guys grew up in Kingston Springs, Tennessee, right? Mostly,
Yes,
I
sir.
imagine because your dad was, producing and stuff like that in Nashville. So
At the time, he was really just writing songs, and he was finding new acts at that time. He was working A&R at Mercury.
A&R, yeah, yeah.
hmm And we, I mean, Sammy Kershaw moved out there while we were out there. Vern Gosdin lived down the street. Billy
Mm-hmm.
Joe Schaefer and Eddie Schaefer both lived down the street. Um, Shania Twain lived with us in our house while we were, out there. I mean, it was crazy. But Vern, his wife, had no cooking experience. She just didn't cook, and neither one of his wives. He had two while we lived out there, um, and so he was at our house, at least 4 nights a week eating dinner because my mom is a fabulous cook. And so after dinner, him and Melanie and Dad would sit on the floor and sing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an ongoing. They would swap parts, and you could hear him. He'd go, "All right, Melly, this time I'm gonna do this, and Buddy, you go here and you sing this." And so, and in essence, she got taught how to sing by the voice of country music.
It's insane. It's insane. And I want to talk about your role here too, because I think this is funny. You decided to rebel against that, so you weren't really part of that circle that's going on with
Oh, I would
with your
stuff
sister and
stuff
your
under
dad.
my door to try to keep from listening to them.
Right.
I'd be like, I wish they'd stop.
And you regret that now, though, don't you? Looking
Oh,
back.
absolutely, 100%. I'd love to sit in that living room just one time and listen to them.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's that like? Your dad's Buddy Cannon. You got Vern Gosdin and Shania Twain. You got all these people around, and that probably was normal for you, obviously.
It was very normal for
Yeah,
us. So it was just like
for
it
us
was
looking
never
in,
a
it's not a normal thing, but for you, it is. But what was the thought process in just rebelling against it? Like, this is just what you hear every day, right?
right. And I actually, when I listened to, on my wall, you would see there was Sean Cassidy, Leif Garrett. I was a big '80s pop girl, and I loved Motown.
Yeah.
I loved New Edition, and I loved, Lionel Richie is just like the best thing I've ever heard. Still to this day, I got to meet him. Dad worked with him in the studio one day, and I said, Dad, I'm going to come meet Lionel Richie. And he goes, well, let me get there and fill it out. And I said, I don't care what happens. I don't ever ask to come, and I am coming to meet Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
And but I got to go meet him, and I actually have a picture sitting right across. I can see it from here on my table over there of me and my sister and Lionel Richie.
Well, and people don't realize out there either that Lionel Richie was still is a fabulous producer as well.
Songwriter, a
Just yeah,
songwriter. He's
songwriter
just a
as well.
mad songwriter.
Man, the story of I'm sure you know Steve Dorff, but the story behind Through the Years, where Kenny Rogers and Lionel Richie were fighting over that song, it's just a remarkable story. But
Yeah, oh,
uh,
that's a great song.
yeah, it is, and they fought over that song. And what ended up happening is Kenny Rogers recorded it, Lionel Richie produced it, so Steve got the best of both worlds on that one.
That was the theme song for my junior prom.
Yeah, just a great song. There's so many cool songs out there over the ages, and the stories behind them are just incredible as well. So obviously, you're growing up in this house with a legend. You don't know that at the time, but your dad is just unbelievable in the business. So I'm going to throw a loop in here. Can you tell me something you learned from your mom? Some lessons from mom.
How to love people. My mom is the best human I know. She takes everybody in. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's why I've heard Kenny say, "I just want to come eat Billy's cooking." And everybody she meets, she treats like family. And she's the oldest of 23 grandkids in her family. So
Golly.
yeah, and she loves every one of her cousins like they were her kids.
Wow. I'm
And
not
I mean,
sure.
all of my friends, to this day, all of my friends, if they see my mother, they beeline.
Mm-hmm. She's mom to all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure I could remember 23 cousins' names. Never mind like show them equal love, you know.
I know all their names.
Oh, God bless you. Yeah,
That's what she taught me. She taught me to keep in touch with my cousins because I'm friends. I just actually played a show in Chicago this past weekend, and 7 of my cousins in Illinois came.
wow, that's cool. So they're still supporting.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
that's a good family unit then for sure. What's the one chief thing you took from your dad? If that's the one thing you took from your mom, what thing was most important that you took from your dad as well?
When I first decided, when I first started writing songs, I was working as a nurse, and when Dad heard me singing some of my songs, and and I decided that this is what I wanted to do, he told me, he said, I just want you to know, he said, this business is the most rewarding thing you could ever do with your life. And he said, but it'll break your heart quicker than you can blink. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, if you can handle that, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and you fought against that. That's why you were a nurse, is because you were adamant not.
Oh God,
Yeah,
yes, I did not want to be. I mean, country music was just we had. That's all the records we had.
yeah,
My parents didn't have any money when we were growing up, and so any records we had are what Dad brought home. So we had all the country records. I mean, the first record I ever remember buying that wasn't country was Amy Grant's not Christian record.
yeah.
The one with
Oh, baby,
Everywhere
baby.
I Go was on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
baby, baby, and oh yeah, that was a great record. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're taking me back now. Yeah, Amy Grant was amazing. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
Um.
But now in our basement we had it was tricked out with microphones and stuff. So me and Melanie would get down there and jam out all the time.
Yeah. So what finally made you relent and I'm gonna give this a go because there has to be like I don't want to say a come to Jesus meeting, but you kind of have to let go of that rebelliousness if you want to make a valid attempt at it, right?
Well, yeah, when I went to college, I went first to Austin P State University, and after my first semester, I got brought home because I lost my scholarship because I discovered vodka, and and so when I came home, I went to Tennessee State University, which is a predominantly black school, and I was in the band there. I was the first white girl to be in the band there, and had been other white boys at that time, but I was the first white girl, and they were a high stepping show band. And so, I mean, like we did 14-minute shows, and in the middle of the show, we laid our instruments down on the field and started dancing. And and that was my jam. I mean, I loved anything funky,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was where I was in life. And but I still loved my family and my music family because we're surrounded with. I mean, I grew up with half my life with Dean Dillon passed out on our couch.
Right.
So um, I loved them, and so they would get together, and of course I'd want to be in the middle of them too. And one night we were all hanging out, and one of the guys songwriters that was there said, Marla, why don't you do anything in the music business? And Melanie piped up and said she writes poems.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, seriously? And I was like, well, yeah. And I started writing poems when I was young. That's how I would get through my tests in school. I would write a song about whatever I was studying so I would remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I would teach it to all my friends. That's how they all passed too. But so I he took my poems. I gave him 3, and he called me the next day and he said, "Listen to this," and he sang me one of my songs. So that was when I asked Charlie Steffel. I said, "Would you sit down and write a song with me?"
Incredible.
And so I sat down and wrote with him, and then I sat down and wrote with Gene the second time.